Do you really know what has happened in Israel over the past 12 days? Or is the mainstream media hiding something much bigger behind Iran's attack on Tel Aviv? The world saw the missiles streaking across the sky, the sirens wailing in the heart of Jerusalem, but few understood the true significance of what is unfolding before our eyes. This was not just another confrontation between two historic enemies. These were 12 days of escalating tension, silent destruction, and prophetic signs that can no longer be ignored. Iran's offensive against Israel did not begin overnight. It was carefully planned, fueled by years of provocation, shadowy alliances, and a war that had already been waged behind the scenes, in intelligence, diplomacy, and faith. But when the first ballistic missiles fell near Tel Aviv, the mask slipped. The world realized that the conflict had reached a new level, more aggressive, more unpredictable. For 12 consecutive days, Israel faced coordinated attacks with missiles, coming not only from Iran, but from strategic points controlled by allies of the Iranian regime. The objective was clear: to destabilize, scare, and weaken Israel's defense system. Tel Aviv, one of the most protected cities on the planet, saw its sky cut through by long-range rockets, and even though Iron Dome intercepted most of the projectiles, some managed to escape and hit civilian areas, causing injuries, destruction, and panic. Images show craters opened in the middle of avenues, buildings, with destroyed facades, cars on fire, and residents in shock. Rescue teams worked day and night to contain the chaos. Meanwhile, the Israeli government activated war protocols and declared a state of maximum alert. The population, even accustomed to periods of tension, faced one of the most distressing moments in recent years. The feeling was clear. This time, Iran had crossed a red line. And in the midst of all this, questions arise that echo around the world. Why now? Why an attack of this intensity and duration? What interests are behind this escalation? And will the next step be even more destructive? These questions, which are not answered on the news, are directly linked to a larger plot involving global forces, geopolitical decisions, and ancient signs that seem to be coming true with frightening precision. In the next few minutes, you will understand what is really behind the 12 most tense days that Israel has experienced since the beginning of this conflict. We will reveal hidden data, show the real impact of these ballistic missiles, and most importantly, connect the events with what many already consider a prophetic scenario. Stay with me until the end, because what we are going to reveal now could completely change the way you see everything that is happening in the Middle East. Behind the ballistic attacks that hit Tel Aviv for 12 consecutive days, there is a much deeper and more sinister architecture of war than what was portrayed in the news. The Iranian offensive was not a simple emotional response to Israeli actions. It was a meticulously executed plan, with synchronized steps, previously mapped targets, and carefully positioned state-of-the-art weapons. Sources close to Israeli intelligence indicate that the attack followed a strategic timetable, with defined times, missile routes designed to avoid Iron Dome radars as much as possible, and warheads equipped with fragmentation technology to generate the greatest possible impact on civilian and military areas. The main target, Tel Aviv, was not chosen by chance. The city is home to logistical bases, command centers, and advanced defense units, and is also the nerve center of modern Israeli society. Attacking Tel Aviv means not only damaging the country's military structure, but also psychologically shaking its population. And that is exactly what Iran tried to do. But what many do not know is that behind this direct action, there is a chain of silent support. Groups such as Hezbollah, positioned in southern Lebanon, not only provided cover, but also used drones and short-range rockets to divert the attention of the Israeli army. Reports indicate that militias linked to the Iranian regime have been activated in Syria, Iraq, And even in areas of the West Bank, like sleeper cells ready to act at the right moment. The press has not said anything, but in recent weeks, Israel has registered a high number of small coordinated attacks on its northern border and in the Golan Heights. Small but constant violations of airspace have been detected, all with characteristics similar to Hezbollah's actions. Intelligence believes that these actions were rehearsals, tests of the Israeli defense's timing and response, allowing Iran to calculate the best moment to launch its ballistic missiles. It is important to understand that Tehran does not act alone. There is a network that supports, feeds, protects, and informs it. An invisible but extremely active alliance made up of countries and groups that share a common goal: to isolate Israel and weaken it to the breaking point. Furthermore, there are indications that some of the missiles used were supplied by North Korea, with technology adapted to counter modern interception systems. A triangulation involving Iran, North Korea, and elements of the Russian arms industry raises serious concerns among international agencies. China's indirect involvement has also been speculated, especially in the supply of electronic components for the guidance systems of these missiles. This places the world before a conflict that, although geographically localized, is fully intertwined with global interests. And most worrying of all, there are suspicions that the next targets are being chosen based on symbolic impact. Historical, religious, and diplomatic sites are reportedly on Iran's radar for a future wave of attacks, should Israel continue with its large-scale retaliation. The idea is to generate not only physical destruction, but a moral and international collapse that places Israel in the position of aggressor, even as a victim. This is the kind of invisible war that few can see. A war of narratives, secret alliances, manipulation of facts, and control of information. While most people are just watching the missiles fall and the sirens go off, there is an entire network operating behind the scenes, pulling the strings of a conflict that has all the hallmarks of an orchestrated movement. Do you also feel that there is something much bigger behind these attacks? Write in the comments, this war is bigger than it seems. And if you believe that other nations are behind all this, comment, they are hiding in the shadows. The events of the last 12 days in Israel are not just part of another modern war, nor are they simply chapters in a regional conflict that has been repeated throughout history. For those who are familiar with the scriptures, especially chapters 38 and 39 of the book of Ezekiel, it is impossible not to see the signs unfolding with frightening precision. According to this ancient prophecy, in the last days, a coalition of nations would rise up against Israel, coming from the north and led by a power called Gog, from the land of Magog. Many scholars around the world believe that these references point directly to Russia, united with allies such as Persia, the ancient name for Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, and other peoples. What seemed distant today is presented before us with details that coincide with the names, alliances, and motivations described thousands of years ago. Iran's involvement as a protagonist in this attack on Israel awakens more than just political fear, a strong spiritual uneasiness. This is not just a confrontation over territory, but a siege that has already been foreseen. Russia's silent presence behind the scenes, positioning itself alongside Iran, condemning Israel's actions and offering technical and diplomatic support, echoes like a prophetic warning. The mention of nations of the far north uniting in an attempt to invade the land of Israel, which in days of peace and security would be attacked by a multitude, seems to describe exactly what we have seen taking shape on the battlefields and in diplomatic meetings in recent days. In addition to Ezekiel, the book of Revelation itself mentions major conflicts involving Jerusalem and the uprising of armies toward the Holy Land. Zechariah speaks of all the nations of the earth turning against Jerusalem, and even the prophet Daniel, when speaking of the 70 weeks, mentions a great tribulation that would hit the Jewish people in the end times. The movement of troops, the activation of militias on different borders, the positioning of China as an interested spectator, and the strengthening of alliances between authoritarian regimes show that these are not just geopolitical coincidences. There is a global alignment, both visible and spiritual, that seems to follow an ancient script written not by human hands, but by divine inspiration. The question that remains is inevitable. Are we witnessing the beginning of the final war? Could we be witnessing the first steps of a prophetic conflict that precedes even greater events, such as the revelation of the Antichrist, the Great Tribulation, and the return of the Messiah? What is happening in Israel should not be seen only through the eyes of reason or politics, but through spiritual eyes. Each bomb dropped, each pronouncement by a leader, each new alliance signed may be marking chapters in a story that was announced in advance, and that is now beginning to be fulfilled before a generation that often chooses not to see. And this is exactly what makes these events so important to follow with discernment. We are not just talking about an armed confrontation. We are talking about a possible preparation for the greatest event in the history of humanity, the return of Christ. But before that, according to the scriptures, difficult times will come. Global deceptions, wars, signs in the heavens, persecutions and manifestations of evil on a scale never seen before. In view of this, the need arises to be alert, spiritually vigilant and attentive to the signs of the times. If you've come this far, it's because you feel that something is happening in the world that goes far beyond the news. So be part of those who are truly paying attention. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next revelations we'll bring. Leave a like if this content impacted you and write in the comments, "I am watching the signs," to show that you are one of those who see beyond the surface. And now, continue with the next revelation that is appearing on your screen. There is something there that few are ready to see.